Welcome back to AFTV, everyone. Let's talk about Declan Rice. It's about time. This video has been long in the making because we know that Arsenal have been so strongly linked with Declan Rice, the West Ham midfielder, who has just got better and better every year. It's felt like a big move's been coming for a long time. And I didn't actually think Arsenal would be at the forefront of that potential move, but that's what everyone's saying. That's what the reports are saying, that Arsenal are apparently his preferred destination and Mikel Arteta is desperate to bring him to the club. So why does he want to bring him to the club? That's what we want to analyse in this video today. And we always start with a player profile. Now, this is one of those where you all know Declan Rice, but we're going to go through it anyway. 24-year-old English midfielder, of course, has played for England at the World Cup and at the Euros. I mentioned he's a midfielder, but he's played centre-back. We'll explore that in just a sec. He stands at 6'1" and is right-footed as well. As I said, predominantly midfielder, but I think the versatility is a real big thing. I don't think you'll find a single Arteta signing in which versatility isn't one of their key attributes. Trossard was signed as a player who's played as a 10, as a false 9, as a left winger. Ben White can play right back, centre back, central midfield. Every time I've done a breakdown on one of our signings or potential signings, versatility has always been a key part of that, and it's no different for Declan Rice. In fact, when I was looking back at his numbers in various positions, you actually start to realise how long Declan Rice has been playing at the top level. I mean, he's 24, he's still very young, he's probably still got 10 years plus in the game. And yet it was in 2015-16 that he got 4 games as a centre-back and only 1 as a central midfielder. And then he had his real breakthrough year in 2016-17 with 25 appearances as a centre-back and only the 1 as a midfielder. And then I think West Ham started to flirt with the idea of maybe pushing this guy who's very talented up the pitch into midfield with 20 appearances as a centre-back, 7 in midfield though, more than in the previous seasons. And then they never looked back from the 2018-19 campaign. Not a single minute as a centre-back, but 38 games as a midfielder. Now, more recently this year, I do believe he has an appearance as a centre-back, but again, he's become not just a midfielder, he's really playing as a holding midfielder quite often. In fact, when Souček came in the team, it was Souček getting forward and sort of getting the goals, and Rice was the sitting midfielder. People were looking at him as the answer as a number 6, but he's recently played much more box-to-box, driving forward, and we've got numbers that are going to support that a little bit, and a few more of the heat maps and stuff. But it's very interesting how Declan Rice has developed through his career, moving further up the pitch as he's got better, as he's grown older. West Ham have wanted to get him into more influential areas. And when we say that, I mean, the 6 is one of the most influential areas in the pitch, but they wanted to get him forward a lot more. So it begs the question, is he a 6 or is he a number 8? And when we say this, we float these numbers around, I know you all know what it means, but what we're basically saying, is he a defensive midfielder who you actually want to be quite stubborn in front of the defence, keep things tidy, win the ball often, keep things ticking, and basically be the base from which everything plays? Or as an 8, you're having a lot more influence, yes, in both thirds, attacking and defensive, but also really getting forward and supporting the attackers, the late runs from deep, that kind of thing. What is Declan Rice? And the reality is he's just an incredibly complete midfielder who can do both. He is literally both. And we've got heat maps that support a little bit what I mean by that. But first of all, let's look at what Granit Xhaka has been doing for Arsenal and his heat map, because I think it's very interesting when you compare the two. We're going to take it first to Granit Xhaka's, and here we have it here. Granit Xhaka, again, very left-sided, very kind of we know he's playing in a midfield 3 for Arsenal with Partey at the base, Odegaard drifts right, he drifts left and he goes forward. And again, look how much ground he's covering, not just on the left side of the pitch, but how often he is playing in the final third and in the second, the attacking half. A lot of it will be down to the fact that Arsenal will have a lot of possession in games. That will affect the heat map, of course, as well. But I think what's interesting about it, this is just a Premier League heat map, and you see the areas he's covering. Declan Rice, we're going to look at his Premier League heat map. Okay, a little bit more central and a little bit more in the defensive half, but still a lot of attacking left 8 spaces taken up there, as you can see, occupying more the left-hand side than the right-hand side for sure. But more interestingly, when you look at his heat map for the Conference League, where West Ham will typically have more of the ball, will typically be the aggressors, we go along to that, again, getting quite high up and left onto that left-hand side, and really expressing himself in that area of the pitch, which, when we're talking about a potential replacement of Granit Xhaka, which is what a lot of people are saying Declan Rice is going to be, that kind of bodes well. Immediately you're seeing the areas of the pitch he gets into, he seems to fit very well, or at least has had a lot of experience playing in those same areas as Granit Xhaka. So, we talk about where he'll fit, let's have a little look. Taking it to the tactical pad here. This is the 11 that typically played last season for, actually, I say typically played. It didn't typically play. It was the 11 I think we all knew was our best 11. It wasn't the 11 we saw as often as we wanted because, you know, Jesus out for 3-4 months. Then Saliba misses the run-in. Partey missed a few key games. Zinchenko wasn't always available. But that was, I think we all know, when everyone was fit, Arsenal's best 11. So the question is Declan Rice coming to take Xhaka's position, because we know Xhaka's leaving? Is he here to compete with Thomas Partey? We know we've got Jorginho, we've been linked with Caicedo as well. I think he's coming in to be a Granit Xhaka. I think he's coming in to, if we just remove Granit Xhaka there, to play in that area of the pitch, get into these areas that we know that he can operate in. And I've bored you all to death with it. If you've been watching Tactical Insight and other shows I'm in, I've mentioned this 3-2-5 that we play in, and I think he'll just contribute there, with Zinchenko coming aside as he does, and then the back three building. I think this is where he will probably be playing most of his football, getting forward. The big question is, and Turkish asked this question really, really well, is Declan Rice an output player though? Now in fairness, and again, credit to Turkish, who went and did the numbers on Forever Arsenal. He's got 4 goals, 4 assists in the Premier League this season. That is not bad when Granit Xhaka's got 7 goals, 7 assists, and Arsenal score a lot more goals and play a lot more attacking football and have a lot more possession. That suggests that actually Declan Rice probably can, if you're doing a little kind of on-the-spot projection, probably can get to those Granit Xhaka numbers. So, how do his goals and his numbers compare to Granit Xhaka's? Let's open them here. What I've got here is kind of, I've put Xhaka and Rice sort of in average positions where their goals have been scored from. But very interestingly, again, very left heavy, very much productive from the left side. But they do differ a little bit. Let's pull, let's move that back. There we go. Let's pull Declan Rice out and let's pull Granit Xhaka out there. What you've got here is Granit Xhaka, not a lot of his goals, every single goal of his scored from inside the box. He's been making late runs, he's been the supporting cast when a Jesus or a Martinelli or a Saka have been sort of getting into the box. They're the main sort of lines and lanes of attack. Xhaka's been there as kind of a late runner or getting on the edge of on the end of a cross into the box. We saw the goal against Wolves. So you've had a lot of these goals scored, let me just show you here, in white, in this kind of cluster here. Declan Rice, however, far more productive in this area of the pitch. And actually, you've got that one goal where he's made. By the way, I should point out the dotted lines are his runs, and then the straight lines are where he's kind of scored his goals. But he has scored a goal, and we'll just point it out here, in the box that was from a set piece where he ran in. He scored against Bournemouth and against Leeds, which will show it there, where he made a run to the back post, very Xhaka-esque. So, actually, let's just open this back up. So there are similarities in the way Rice can make runs to the back post and do what Granit Xhaka did. But I think he's also shown what Granit Xhaka has, funnily enough, shown in previous years, an ability to score from the edge of the box. He's got a good range, a good shooting range. But we saw that mainly this year, some really good goals from distance. But again, I think the key focus is that a lot of his productivity coming on the left side of the pitch, where Granit Xhaka has done a lot of his work as well. So how does he compare to number 8? So we'll leave the tactical pad there and compare him to number 8 now, because I've compared him to Granit Xhaka's numbers. I've compared him to Gundogan as well. I think they're the two that are the most comparable in terms of the kind of getting forward while they've been kind of number 10s also operating. He's had Lucas Paqueta there. Odegaard has been there with Granit Xhaka. De Bruyne has been there with Gundogan. So I want to compare their numbers, and they're very, very interesting. Now, of course, the usual context is applied to all this. Arsenal and Man City have more of the ball, have scored more goals than West Ham. He's having to do a little bit more defending. He's typically played with a back three behind him. Although so have technically City and Arsenal when actually you put them in their attacking shape. But anyway, and the numbers are very interesting. Broken down per 90, goals per 90, 0.11 for Rice, not as good as Gundogan, 0.31, and Xhaka 0.21. But again, you kind of take into account that we're talking about a player playing for West Ham compared to City and Arsenal, who finished in the top 2 in the Premier League. But other things look really impressive as well. The pass completion is just shy of Gundogan's, but better than Xhaka's actually. Shot creating actions, not as good as Gundogan and Xhaka's, but again, context and things like that, the teams they're playing in probably come into account with that. But look at some of the other things he comes out on top of, especially with this first set of attacking stats. Progressive passes, 6.6, better than Gundogan, 6.5, and Xhaka as well. Passes into final third, 6.41, better than Gundogan and Xhaka's. I mean, that's a very interesting one, isn't it? Passes into the final third, beating the other two for that. Switches of play, 1.65 to 0.23 and 0.18. I mean, that's a massive difference, but that doesn't surprise me either. Every time I watch Declan Rice, he seems to really like that long raking pass. But secondly, doesn't that really suit Arsenal when you think of the way they like to compress teams in one side of the pitch or the other? Because Zinchenko come into midfield, they kind of really clog up one area of the pitch and dominate, and then the switch ball's on. How many times, I mean, look against Fulham, that goal we scored where Saliba switched it out to Granit Xhaka. I think that is something that Arsenal and Arteta might really use with Declan Rice. And again, he's up there for take-ons attempted, progressive carries and carries into the final third, better than Gundogan and Xhaka. Really impressive attacking numbers. Let's just look at some of the defensive numbers that again are really impressive, and perhaps more expectedly, I guess, because West Ham would be doing more defending than Arsenal and Manchester City, you know, across 90 minutes. But ball recovery is 9.18 to Gundogan's 5.93 and Xhaka's 4.57. Aerials 1, not as good as Gundogan's, but still decent. Tackles in the defensive third, tackles in the middle third, better as well. Not as good as Gundogan, 0.38. Tackles in the attacking third, interestingly enough, but that's to be expected as well. West Ham aren't exactly a high-pressing team. But I think what is interesting is this in particular, the challenges lost, 0.52 per 90 compared to Gundogan 0.8 and Xhaka 0.75. He comes out on top in that area, and he comes out on top for interceptions, 1.73 to Gundogan and Xhaka's, who are below 1 interception per game. Now again, you sort of expect that a little bit when he's doing more defending, but that's a really good thing when you're looking at a team that want to press. It's about intercepting, getting in front of your player, almost encouraging the opposition to play dangerous passes, and then you get there in front of them. And actually, when do we see that? We saw that against Arsenal when Declan Rice got in front of Thomas Partey. Or did he? I mean, Partey kind of had the ball and tried to juggle it over Rice, but Rice did get there, nicked the ball off him. What did they do? Kind of caused panic in the Arsenal defence, and they won a penalty, and it was the start of their comeback. So Declan Rice and those defensive numbers in particular, really, really important. His attacking numbers, very impressive as well. One thing that goes really under the radar when you're trying to replace a Granit Xhaka, you can't just say, oh, well, Smith Rowe will do it. Well, we'll just chuck Smith Rowe in Xhaka's role and he'll be fine. Maybe when you've got the ball for 90 minutes, that might be okay. But we've seen Fabio Vieira struggle a little bit when he's been asked to do that. And the big reason is because Granit Xhaka doesn't get the credit he deserves for how he drops next to Partey to ensure that we've got a really kind of solid two banks of four, and that we're difficult to break down when teams do enter our third. Let me show you how that looks. Granit Xhaka drops in, Martinelli drops in, Odegaard actually goes to press and defend from the front with Jesus, and Partey and Xhaka make that a 4-4-2. Now, Declan Rice needs to be able to do that alongside Granit Xhaka, and I think he can. And I think that's what makes Declan Rice worth 100 million to Mikel Arteta, because where do you find another player who's got output in the final third, but can slot in and be a proper defensive midfielder, slot alongside a partner and do the defensive work? Because as a two, you've got to cover a lot of ground. Declan Rice has shown that in the numbers that we brought up there, that he can do it, but he's got to be able to do it in a two. He's shown he can do that before. He's got to be able to do it in a three. He's shown he can do that before as well. But he's got to be able to get forward and get back. And I think at West Ham this season more than ever, he has shown that he absolutely has that. So that's going to be a really crucial element to any player we bring in, because I mentioned the £100 million. How many players out there can you mention that can do that can do both things, that are incredibly complete and have shown that they can do it in the Premier League and have their best years ahead of them? I think that's why Arsenal will ultimately play 100, probably more, 100 million or so for Declan Rice. And I think a big part that we should also mention is his personality. He's a player who, look at that video that went around the other day, meeting that young fan, promising him a shirt as well, giving him a big hug, and everything he's done as well. He's not afraid to speak out. He's not afraid to face the media. He does that. He wears the armband for West Ham, and he leads them, I think, with real class. And I think he is someone that you've only got to look at what he's given to West Ham over the years, and the almost how appreciative they are of his work, in the fact that West Ham fans, I wouldn't say are happy to lose him, but they are accepting in a, we want you to go spread your wings and do more, because You know, I've heard West Ham fans call him world class, and they believe that there are sort of more levels for him to go and more for him to achieve in his career. And I think that really tells you what a character is, but what a player he is as well. And if Arsenal get him, I think we'll be very lucky too. That's been my breakdown on Declan Rice. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hit the like button if you have. We're going to be doing this weekly in focus on our transfer targets as well. And don't forget, there will be reactions to everything happening in the world of transfers on AFTV as the breaking news happens. There'll be a new transfer talk show where we'll be talking about it in more depth. Transfer Fan Zone, where you'll be able to jump on and have your say about everything we're talking about, as well, of course, in Transfer Day we'll be back as well. So we are well and truly keeping you up to date with the world of transfers in the world of Arsenal as well. Let's see what happens. I think this might be one that is concluded fairly soon, whether it be Arsenal, whoever it is. I hope it's Arsenal, of course. I don't think we'll have to wait long to know what's happening with Declan Rice. Many thanks. See you very soon.
Shop for AFTV merch at shop.aftv.co.uk. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat and Twitch. We've got content for every platform, so check it out.